My family erased my 18th birthday to comfort my sister. Within 2 years I watched their finances, marriage, and reputation collapse. 3 days before my 18th birthday, my parents canceled my party so my sister could recover from a canceled vacation. That's when I stopped being the dependable son and started being the unpaid staff, and I began to plan my exit. Currently, I am a 23-year-old male, but my story begins when I turned 21 2 years ago. Seraphine, my 27-year-old sister, has been the shining star in our family ever since she was born. When she has an adult tantrum, people in restaurants stare at her because she has full-blown princess syndrome. Roland, our dad, is a mid-sized builder who specializes in bespoke homes. He grew up in a Phoenix suburb. Maris, mom, is a real estate representative for a posh company that caters to seniors and IT executives, selling them mansions worth millions of dollars. They earn about $250,000 annually when they work together. We had the Arizona dream, a large house in a gated community, a pool for summer fun, and a 2-car garage, so we were comfortably upper middle class. That ought to have been sufficient to ensure the happiness of both children, didn't it? Oh, I see. At a young age, Seraphine discovered that if she cried or threw a tantrum, she would get her way. When she didn't get her way, she would have tantrums fit for a jealous toddler. She would fling herself on the floor, scream till her face flushed red, and threaten to injure herself. The pattern had already been established by the time I reached an age when I could comprehend what was going on. For her 18th birthday, she received a shiny white BMW with expensive custom wheels. However, I was given my dad's beat-up work truck, which had 210,000 miles on the clock, rust patches, and an AM-only radio. The difference was glaring. During her 6 years of intermittent college attendance, she received a monthly stipend of $4,500, while I worked a 28-hour week at a nearby gym to cover the costs of gas, clothing, and school supplies. After Seraphine's third-room makeover in 2 years, her parents shelled out $10,000 for a set of designer pieces from a Scottsdale boutique. They advised me to become financially responsible when I requested for assistance in purchasing AP class textbooks. Without hesitation, her sorority sisters paid the full $8,000 for her month-long European vacation. The family budget was tight that month, they explained, when I asked to go to a leadership camp that cost $600. It was frustrating because the examples went on and on. In Seraphine's junior year, she was texting and driving when she crashed her BMW. I received a penalty for exceeding the speed limit in a school zone, and my dad purchased her an even more recent model while stating, "Accidents happen." I was fined and grounded for a month. She had to spend a lot of money on tutoring after failing organic chemistry twice. Sure thing. With their budget, they were able to employ the perfect tutor. Calculus was a challenge for me. Resolve the issue independently. You're competent enough. Now here's the catch. As she wreaked havoc on the family, I was the one who really kept everyone together. Seraphine treated college like a summer camp, partied all the time and skipped courses, whereas I worked part-time, volunteered at an animal shelter, tutored younger students for free, and took care of most of the housework that grown-ups should have been doing. I managed to keep my GPA at 4.33. While mom was busy showing homes to clients, I kindly remembered to pay the water bill. After a long day on the job, my dad's back started to hurt, so I offered to pick up his dry laundry. I was the one responsible for going food shopping, making supper plans, and stocking the pantry. I was the one who made actual and metaphorical repairs to Seraphine's mess. Because Seraphine was emotionally vulnerable and still finding herself, my parents rationalized all of this by claiming she needed more attention due to her heightened sensitivity. The opposite was true for me. I was self-reliant and mature for my age, so I didn't require nearly as much supervision as other kids my age. Instead of praising and supporting me, they made it appear like my dependability and expertise were grounds to be ignored. They behaved as if my successes were routine every time. They pretended every time Seraphine had a setback that the whole family needed to rally behind. Worst of all, they had credited Seraphine for any success that came from using me to fix her difficulties. I devoted a whole weekend to assisting my dad in evaluating the damage, finding replacement parts, and negotiating with insurance companies when she had an accident involving her BMW during her junior year. After months of guiding her through high school level material, she passed organic chemistry on her third try. I was the one who had to go to the jail at 4 o'clock in the morning to get her when she was jailed for underage drinking at a frat party. That was too much for my parents to handle, both emotionally and disappointed. Who was lauded the most though, when Seraphine finally earned her community college diploma, albeit 2 years later than expected. Yes, she did. In response, mom would express her pride in her child's resilience. I was ignored and unappreciated while the family treated me like an unpaid intern, essential to their operations but unnoticed. I promised myself that when I turned 19, things would be different. At last, I would have reached the age of proper adulthood. At last, they would have to treat me with the dignity due an equal family member. At last, I would receive some acknowledgement for all the hard work I put in to keep this family running well while they were preoccupied with their troublesome golden kid. Regarding the outcome, I was completely mistaken. So, I'm going to be 19 years old in 2 years. I thought this was going to be massive. Legal adulthood, graduation from high school in a few months, early entrance to Arizona State with partial scholarships based on my GPA and extracurricular activity. This birthday had been on my wish list for what felt like an eternity. I longed for a change. To be the center of attention for reasons other than rescuing someone else or evading the consequences of my own dysfunctional family, and to feel appreciated for my own unique qualities and achievements. My parents were asked if it would be possible to throw a lovely celebration. Just some relatives and close friends, maybe 25 or 30 people in all, nothing extravagant or extravagantly priced. We could host it in our backyard, complete with a BBQ, music, and all the trimmings. Even better, I offered to chip in some of my own savings from working to cover the cost. Both parents appeared to be enthusiastic about the concept. Our baby's becoming a man, Mom would tell her friends and clients again and over. Because he felt it would be a great way to relive some childhood memories, Dad even offered to hire one of those inflatable obstacle courses. After weeks of preparation, we finally sent out the right invites 3 weeks in advance, had a special cake made by the posh bakery downtown, and arranged the entire menu of grilled hot dogs, burgers, and sides. I even enlisted Mom's help in compiling an age-appropriate playlist. My favorite instructor, who had written recommendation letters and believed in me when nobody else did, my best friend Dorian, my girlfriend Alara, my wrestling teammates, and the boys from the gym were all invited. I even lost my employer, who had been more like a father figure and mentor to me. This was going to be my chance to prove to everyone that the shy, responsible youngster had achieved his dreams. With my acceptance to a prestigious university, scholarship funds, and network of supportive friends and family, I felt prepared to take the next step into adulthood. But Seraphine's spring break trip to Cancun was canceled precisely 3 days prior to the celebration. For months, she and her college pals had planned this trip. A week at a pricey resort with $400 per night suites, continuous parties at beachside bars, professional photo shoots for Instagram, the complete influencer lifestyle she was always pursuing. For her share of the resort, airfare and spending money, Dad had already spent $4,500. She had squandered weeks trying on bikinis, tanning beds, and fancy duffel bags. However, there was a huge rift in her friend circle due to drama that I failed to comprehend. Out of nowhere, the trip was canceled. Deposits were misplaced, and Seraphine found herself stranded at home over her spring break, with no plans whatsoever. She was completely out of her mind when she returned home on Friday afternoon. I mean a complete nuclear meltdown, complete with sobbing, yelling, hurling objects in her room, slamming doors, and everything in between. This vacation had been her incentive to do well in her classes that semester, and she was looking forward to it. Without delay, my parents shifted into crisis mode. In an effort to be there for her, Mom canceled 3 client meetings and risked losing commissions by calling in sick. Dad postponed his plans to play golf and poker with friends this weekend. They contacted her therapist to set up an urgent appointment, ordered her favorite Thai cuisine from the pricey restaurant across town, and ran a bubble bath with her beloved, but expensive, bath bombs. They dealt with her as if she were mourning a loss rather than letting her miss out on a vacation that was out of reach for most people. On Saturday morning, at 7 a.m., I'm helping Seraphine set up the decorations and prepare the food for my party, which is less than 24 hours away. Seraphine, dressed in her silk pajamas, comes downstairs, her eyes still puffy and red from her theater festival. She declared as if giving a medical diagnosis. "I can't handle having a party here tomorrow. I'm too emotionally fragile right now. The noise and all those people will trigger my anxiety about the trip situation and set back my emotional recovery." It seemed as if my stomach had collapsed. "Brittany, it's my birthday party. We've had this planned for weeks. People are already planning to come." "I understand, and I apologize for the timing," she murmured, her tears beginning to fall again. "But I'm going through something really traumatic right now. I need the house to be calm and peaceful so I can process my feelings about this disappointment. Having a party would be really insensitive to my current emotional state." As soon as Seraphine began to make great sense, Mom began nodding along. "She has a point. Honey, your sister is dealing with a lot of disappointment and rejection right now. This Cancun situation has really shaken her confidence. The news seemed so unbelievable to me. Mom, it's my 18th birthday. This is a major milestone. People are already expecting to come. I invited my teacher, my boss, Alara's parents. At that moment, Seraphine revealed her hidden strength. If you really cared about me as your sister, you'd postpone it until I'm feeling better. Family should support each other during difficult times, not make things worse by being selfish. Without waiting for me to finish speaking, my dad stormed into the kitchen and took her side in the argument. Son, your sister needs us right now. You're strong enough to handle a little disappointment. She's not built the same way you are. But Dad, everyone's expecting to celebrate tomorrow. I've been planning this for weeks. I ordered a cake, bought decorations, planned the whole menu. As he firmly stated, we'll reschedule for next weekend. He seemed to be mentally shifting gears to discuss something else. Family comes first, and right now, your sister needs our support more than you need a party. You'll have plenty of other birthdays. The callous disregard for my significant birthday, the callous disregard for me as an individual who mattered, felt like a physical blow to the stomach. This was about more than just the postponement of a celebration. For nearly 18 years, whenever Seraphine experienced a problem or crisis, I was treated as though my needs, feelings and achievements were irrelevant. Canceling everything took up the remainder of Saturday while I made embarrassing phone calls. My partner was bewildered and upset that I would cancel at the 11th hour. It was disappointing for my pals, and a few of them had plans for the weekend after that. When she wanted to know if I was all right at home, my teacher questioned if everything was all right. I canceled my own birthday celebration, and my boss was nice, but he plainly felt it was strange. My family canceled my birthday party due to my sister's trip turmoil, and I couldn't bring myself to admit it. So, I lied, and said I was unexpectedly sick. It was intolerable to be embarrassed. Seraphine, meanwhile, sunk into a fancy bikini and spent the day sharing depressing Instagram stories about overcoming setbacks and finding serenity under unforeseen circumstances. She didn't appear to be dealing with mental anguish. Rather, she appeared to be enjoying a spa day. I made a decision that would alter the course of my life that night as I sat alone in my room on the eve of my major celebration. I had had enough of being this family's go-getter, problem solution, and unpaid housekeeper. My family paid me zero attention the morning after my actual 18th birthday. There was no effort to make this Sunday special by wishing the celebrant a happy birthday, having a special breakfast, or exchanging gifts. It seemed like Sunday was just another weekday when it came to my birthday. Mom was too busy making Seraphine her favorite protein smoothie with pricey organic ingredients, and Dad was already at a construction site. Even though it was just another day at the house, I felt like an unseen child being treated like an adult. At some point around midday, Seraphine had the gall to say that my silence and disconnection were dampening the atmosphere. "I'm sorry your party had to be canceled, but it's not my fault," she remarked as she ate her mom's elegant brunch and texted. "You don't have to take your bad mood out on everyone else. Some of us are dealing with real problems." Something fundamental cracked inside of me at that moment. Options that I'd never given much thought to before became apparent to me. At this point, I had reached the age of majority, which granted me all the privileges and rights as an adult. 2 years of working out at the gym had put some money away for me. The families of my acquaintances treated me with the respect and admiration I deserved. Having accepted to college, received scholarships, and maintained satisfactory academic standing, allowed me to establish my own life apart from those who obviously did not respect or regard me. From the comfort of my room, I began to make strategic phone calls. A call to my wrestling coach was my first step. His family had been nothing but welcoming to me, and I had a feeling they had a spare bedroom since their eldest son had gone off to university. Upon hearing my broad description of the situation, they promptly extended an offer to let me remain with them for as long as I required. "You're like a son to us anyway," his wife added as she picked up the phone. "We'd be honored to have you here during your senior year." Secondly, while at the gym, I contacted my supervisor. He kept pushing me to work additional hours and brought up the fact that his other store across town was in need of dependable staff. He told me he could start me off at 30 hours per week right away when I inquired about the prospect of full-time employment. "You're the most responsible kid I've ever hired," he stated. "If you need more income for independence, I've got opportunities for you." The third thing I did was dial the home number of my school counselor. Upon hearing the news, she was horrified and promised to assist me in planning how to complete my senior year on my own. "What your parents did was completely inappropriate," stated the woman. "An 18th birthday is a major milestone, and canceling it for the reasons you described shows a serious problem with family priorities." I developed a thorough strategy for autonomy by Sunday night. Going to school, working my regular shifts at the gym, and taking care of my typical domestic duties were all parts of my seemingly ordinary week that followed. My folks were pleased with how I was handling disappointment and thought my attitude had changed for the better. They had no idea that I was clandestinely packing up my most prized possessions and preparing to leave the house. Several things every day to my coach's house, my most prized possessions, including my paperwork, electronics, finest clothing, books, wrestling medals, and everything else that truly mattered to me. In addition, I ceased attending to the myriad details that ensured the house ran efficiently. I failed to inform Dad of the approaching due dates for his bills. I failed to update Mom's calendar or manage her client documentation. Forgot to tidy up any random spills around the house. Skimped on grocery shopping and meal planning. My birthday was postponed, and I completed the task the following Saturday, precisely 1 week later. I hung around till Seraphine's parents were gone, and she was spending her unearned money at the mall. I methodically emptied my room of all of my possessions, placing the remaining items into trash bags and cartons. My house key and a message were left on my bed. Since my needs, feelings, and milestones don't seem to matter in this family, I've decided to go somewhere they do. Don't contact me unless you're ready to genuinely apologize and make real changes to how you treat me. I'll finish high school and start my adult life with people who actually value and respect me. This isn't a tantrum or a phase. This is me choosing to surround myself with people who treat me like I matter. Having packed up my entire life into my trusty old truck, I drove away from the place I had called home for the past 18 years, knowing full well that I would never set foot inside again. Feelings of relief and liberation washed over me instantly. I was making a life-altering choice for the first time ever without considering anybody else's needs or wants but my own. Excuse me, everyone. This new hype function was just introduced by YouTube. Hit the hype button if you're absolutely engrossed in this narrative. It sends a message to YouTube that this video is worthy of going viral, and it keeps sending you even wilder stories. Your support is much appreciated. Okay, let's return to the drama. Spending time with my coach's family was like entering a different world where kids are truly treasured, encouraged, and handled with dignity. Instead of treating me like a paid employee, they welcomed me with open arms, inquired about my day, and engaged me in family choices. When I moved in with my new friends, I finally felt like I was part of a family. At the same time, it was interesting and fulfilling to see my original family disintegrate without me to keep everything together. Within days, the initial symptoms manifested. For the most part, I had been the one to take care of the household's administrative needs, such as sending out reminders for bills and appointments, going grocery shopping, arranging meals, and keeping everything organized. Immediate neglect set in when I was no longer around to serve as the family's unpaid personal assistant. They went 3 weeks without paying their mortgage, piled up late penalties on a number of credit cards, and Mom lost a big customer due to her forgetfulness over a critical deadline, something I would have ordinarily taken care of. Yet Seraphine wreaked havoc. Let me explain. Without me, my parents were left to handle her issues on their own, without the benefit of my mediation, buffer, and problem-solving abilities. And did she have issues that were building up like a nuclear explosion? To start, she was placed on academic probation after failing 2 classes that semester. She was at a loss without me to guide her, correct her work, and complete much of her schoolwork. Because she had always relied on me for assistance, she had never mastered the skills necessary to succeed academically, like studying, researching, and time management. Because Seraphine didn't connect with the instructor's approach, she often skipped lessons, forcing her father to pay a hefty $75 per hour for private tutoring. Yet again, she was taken into custody. Specifically, for stealing from a Scottsdale high-end store. She had apparently been pilfering cosmetics, accessories, and clothing for a considerable amount of time. A $300 purse was her target when the shopkeeper apprehended her and decided to seek charges. Dad spent thousands on legal representation, restitution, and court expenses. The most distressing aspect was that her motivation for stealing was not financial need but rather the excitement of the chase and a sense of entitlement. The most tragic finding, though, was the realization that she had been steadily stealing from her parents for quite some time. Once I left, no one was there to assist keep the accounts in order, explain away mysterious spending, or make up for lost funds. They found out she had been stealing money from Mom's purse, making illicit purchases with Dad's credit cards, and even forging checks. Over the course of 2 years, an astounding sum of more than $35,000 was spent without authorization. Expenditures that may have covered my education costs. Sums of money that could have guaranteed their old age. Instead of eventually confronting her, they reinforced their support for her actions. Her mounting debt and legal bills were paid for by her dad through a second mortgage on the house. To make ends meet, Mom began working 7 days a week. The neighborhood gossip network, shared contacts, and social media allowed me to see how everything developed. In every photo, my parents appeared weary and anxious. The public perception of their picture-perfect family was crumbling. They made repeated attempts to contact me. They begged me to return home, to be the strong one and help the family through this tough time, and to be the mature one and figure things out in a series of ever more desperate voicemails. But take note of the one thing that was absent from each and every one of the messages. Any regret for postponing my birthday. I was treated unfairly, and it was never acknowledged. It was all just guilt trips about how their lives were harder without me. The voicemails from Dad would say, "Please son, we need you here. Your sister is really struggling without you to help her, and your mom and I don't know how to handle all these problems on our own." However, I maintained my composure and ignored all of their efforts to get in touch with me. My new environment was perfect for me. I worked 30 hours a week, trained with the wrestling team, and kept my 4.2 GPA. I also made real friends who cared about me. Rather of spending my life rescuing other people's disasters, I was finally enjoying life to the fullest. When I was a high school senior with honors and a full athletic scholarship to Arizona State, my first family's predicament had already spiraled out of control. After Seraphine was expelled for academic dishonesty, she decided to quit college altogether. She was found out to have plagiarized papers, paid others to take her online exams, and even turned in work that she had taken from other students. The icing on the cake was her attempt to bribe a professor into changing her assessment. A dubious online program offered her a degree in business management in just 6 months, and her father was so anxious to secure her future that he spent $15,000 to enroll her. The whole affair was obviously a fraud that duped them out of a certificate's value and added to their debt. Because she was emotionally exhausted, preoccupied, and unable to concentrate on her clients, Mom's real estate career was in shambles. Without my assistance in keeping organized, she would never have missed appointments, forgotten deadlines, or made such simple mistakes, costing her multiple big sales. The highly competitive Phoenix real estate market was taking a toll on her reputation. Additionally, Dad's construction company was having trouble. A number of expensive errors in project bids and material estimates had been made by him in my absence when it came to documentation, organization, and fundamental company management. In addition, he had taken out large loans against the company to pay for Seraphine's several emergencies. The icing on the cake, though, was their community status and social reputation. You see, many in our tight-knit suburban neighborhood had begun to take note of things. The local police blotter, which is published in the weekly newsletter, had reported Seraphine's legal difficulties. They began to miss out on social occasions they could no longer afford after selling Mom's luxury automobile and Dad's yacht, revealing their mounting financial difficulty. The worst part was that people were starting to ask why I had left home. The parents of my friends, my old wrestling teammates and instructors all wanted to know more. The community's reaction to the news that Seraphine had to postpone my 18th birthday in order to accommodate her vacation drama was immediate and severe. Even though Phoenix is a large city, in our little suburban town, one's reputation and social status are quite important. At school activities and community functions, other parents began to avoid being around me. People were wary of doing business with Dad because they didn't want to be associated with someone who would treat his responsible and successful son so badly. Real estate brokers who showed good judgment and had stable family values were more popular, and Mom lost clients because of it. Her dysfunctional family became a burden for her relationship-based business. It was a public and glaring contrast. My biological family was falling apart in a dramatic way while I was having a fantastic senior year, winning wrestling bouts, receiving recognition for my academic achievements, and being lauded by both my coach's family and my teachers. Being the model family with the ideal children had become their whole sense of self-worth. That carefully crafted persona crumbled as Seraphine's issues became more public, and I was no longer there to uphold it. The frequency of the calls and messages reaching me increased to numerous times every day. The voicemails became increasingly lengthy, frantic, and disclosing of the severity of the situation's decline. "Son, please. We know we made mistakes, but we need you here. Your mother is crying every night and can't sleep. The business is struggling, and I don't know how to organize everything the way you used to. People in the neighborhood keep asking about you and we don't know what to tell them." I refused to budge from my choice and ignored their repeated attempts to get in touch. In that moment, my life was perfect. I was able to attend Arizona State University on full scholarship, graduate with a 4.4 GPA, advance to the position of shift supervisor at my gym, keep my relationship with Alara strong, and make true friends with individuals that cared about me. Seraphine suffered her most significant crisis to that point around the start of my second year of college, which was around 18 months after I had left home. And this time, it wiped off my parents' social and financial status. He had convinced her that investing in cryptocurrencies would be a quick and easy way to make a lot of money, and she had become connected with him. Investing in this manner was unethical. A pyramid scheme using a fictitious currency promising 500% returns in 6 months was clearly at work here. Seraphine used her access to the family bank account to steal $45,000 from my parents' IRA and put it into this scheme. All of their savings for emergencies, retirement, and the second mortgage were accounted for in this sum. My parents lost all they had worked for over the years when the investment, along with the con artists who had made it, vanished without a trace. The financial collapse of Seraphine was considerably worse than that. Her scheme to rack up debt in my parents' names began a year ago. She used their information to open credit cards they weren't aware of, personal loans they weren't aware of, and even a car loan for a vehicle she promptly wrecked while drunk driving. She had been quite proficient at manipulating their finances. She used their family info and excellent credit to get money that they hadn't allowed. She had already gotten them legally liable for more than $80,000 in debt when they found out how bad her deception was. The entire monetary loss was more than $125,000, which was more than enough to ruin their middle-class way of life when added to their lost savings. Complete and immediate financial ruin ensued. Declaring bankruptcy was an unfortunate necessity that severely damaged their credit and professional standing. The house they had lived in for 15 years was forcibly sold. It was the house where I had spent my formative years, and the house that symbolized their aspirations for the American ideal. In their 50s, they had to confront the reality of having to start over financially, downsized to a modest 2-bedroom apartment in an undesirable section of town, and lost most of their valuables in the process. Due to financial difficulties and legal issues, Dad's construction business went bankrupt. Mom took a work at a large corporate real estate firm because she was forced to. She was underpaid, had no independence, and was treated disrespectfully. Nevertheless, the individual toll was far greater than the monetary catastrophe. Seraphine suffered a total meltdown as she was confronted with real repercussions for the first time in her 26 years of life. When others finally started holding her responsible for her decisions, she was unable to deal with the truth that she had ruined her family's stability, endure the shame and remorse, or even function. She resumed living in my parents' small apartment and became totally reliant on them for all aspects of her life, including emotional support, financial assistance, and basic life management. She was incapable of being self-sufficient, of holding a job for longer than a few weeks, and of handling even the most fundamental adult duties. In addition to living from paycheck to paycheck in tight surroundings, my financially devastated parents, who are now in their 50s, were left to care for a woman child who was 26 years old. It was extremely stressful to cope with bankruptcy proceedings while still supporting 3 adults on 2 minimum wage incomes. Their marriage was ruined by the pressure. Their inability to manage the stress, anger, and animosity that had grown up around Seraphine's behavior and their complicity in it led to their separation 6 months after being together for 26 years. After selling his firm, Dad downsized to living with his brother and took construction jobs for rival companies, where he earned a pittance. Mom worked 65 hours a week at a retail store in addition to her first job to pay the rent and buy groceries. Their impeccable reputation in the neighborhood and the ideal family image they had labored so hard to create were both utterly ruined. Their former admirers now viewed their stories as warnings against tolerating destructive behavior in grown children. In the most gratifying and vindicationary way imaginable, everything came full circle last month. I was studying for my business administration finals at my apartment near the Arizona State University campus when a number I didn't recognize called. In spite of my reservations, I responded. I had blocked all of Dad's numbers more than a year ago, so he was phoning from his brother's phone. When Dad said, "Son," I could sense the weariness, disappointment, and real despair that had built up in his voice over the years. "Please don't hang up. I know you have every right to hate us and never speak to us again. But we need to talk. We need to ask for your help." A new brokenness in his tone compelled me to listen, even though I was about to end the call at that very moment. "Your mother and we've lost everything. The house, the business, our savings, our marriage, our reputation in the community. We're living apart now, both working multiple minimum wage jobs just to survive. And Seraphine is completely dependent on us. But we can't even take care of ourselves anymore. For an instant, he remained silent, and I could discern his efforts to gather himself. We know why you left. We've had 3 years to think about it, and we know we treated you terribly. We canceled your 18th birthday for something that didn't matter. And we've been paying the price ever since. You were the one holding our family together, and we threw you away like you didn't matter. His words carried an air of sincere regret and self-awareness that I had never before heard. Acknowledging the need for assistance, he made the admission. The price he paid to express those words resounded in my ears. Not money. We know we don't deserve that, and you're a college student, but advice, guidance, someone who knows how to make responsible decisions. You're the only one in this family who has their life together. You're thriving in college. You've built a life for yourself. You've become everything we should have supported you to be from the beginning. I waited for him to complete his entire speech. He gushed about how proud they were of my maturity, independence, and grades, and how they had been secretly monitoring my social media to brag about my achievements while acting like they were still involved in my life. People ask about you all the time, he pointed out. They want to know how our successful son is doing in college, and we have to pretend like we still have a relationship with you when the truth is we destroyed it through our own selfishness and poor judgment. Then Mom called, and her tears were streaming down her face. Baby, I'm so sorry. I know we don't deserve your forgiveness, but we've realized that you were the best thing about our family, and we threw it away. We don't know how to fix any of this without you. We don't know how to help Seraphine become a functional adult. We don't know how to rebuild our lives. We've made so many mistakes, but the biggest one was not valuing you when we had you. After their heartfelt remarks were over, I paused to collect my thoughts, and with the clarity and self-assurance that come from 3 years of freedom and personal progress, I told them exactly what I thought. You're absolutely right. You don't deserve forgiveness. You canceled my 18th birthday because Seraphine's vacation got canceled. You spent my entire childhood treating me like unpaid help while giving her everything she wanted. You enabled her into becoming a financial criminal who destroyed your lives, and you did it because you couldn't bear to hold her accountable for anything. I went on. But here's the thing, growing more confident with each syllable. I don't need your family anymore. I've built something better without you. I have people who value me, support me, and celebrate my successes. I have mentors who believe in me, friends who respect me, and a future that I'm building through my own efforts. I don't need to be your emotional support child or your problem solver. The other end's profound and telling quiet was palpable. However, I said, pleasantly surprised by my subsequent statements, I'm willing to have a relationship with you under very specific conditions. First, Seraphine gets serious professional help and starts contributing to society, instead of being a drain on everyone around her. She needs to get a job, pay back what she stole, and prove she can function as an adult. Second, you both acknowledge publicly that you treated me unfairly and that my leaving was completely justified. Third, any relationship we have going forward is based on mutual respect, not your need for me to fix problems you created. Dad uttered hardly a murmur. Anything. We'll do anything you ask. And fourth, I pointed out, you need to understand that I'm not your son coming home to save the family. I'm an independent adult offering a conditional relationship to people who need to prove they've fundamentally changed how they approach family dynamics and personal responsibility. They were unwavering in their agreement and did not dally over any of the conditions. Their follow-through has been fascinating to observe for the last month. After years of being unemployed, Seraphine's father finally got her into intense treatment and secured her a part-time work at a fast food joint. Their blunders and my lawful choice to depart have been acknowledged in a public apology letter that Mom has been drafting. To overcome their enabling tendencies and develop healthier relationship patterns, they are both attending family counseling. Can I ever really let go of my grudges? Very unlikely. It took too long and caused too much damage. However, the most fulfilling form of retribution I could have imagined was seeing them crumble under the weight of their own priorities as I established my own prosperous life.